Okay, there's a whole section in Shulchan Aruch that's called Hilchos Yom Tov that applies to all the Yom Tovim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, and Rosh Hashanah. And in the first siman is Tov Tzadik Hey. When you have an Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, it's in Chelik Dalet. The Alter Rebbe begins explaining how on Yom Tov, all the days of the Yom Tovim, the first and seventh of Pesach and Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah, and the first and last of Sukkot, the Torah says, "Kol meleches avoda lo yisasu." One is not allowed to do work, not allowed to do work on Yom Tov. Now the Lashon is different than by Shabbos. By Shabbos it says lo yisase melocha. By Yom Tov it says kol meleches avoda lo yisasu. So the Alter Rebbe goes on and says, "Umahu meleches avoda." Which malachas of the Lamites malachas are considered work that the Torah forbids on Yom Tov? So it's a little different than Shabbos. Shabbos, it says, lo yisase malach, any type of work that goes in the category of the Lamites malachas. By Yom Tov, it says malachas avoida. So what is malachas avoida? In the malachas itself, only if it's the type that's called work, avoida. So he explains, kol malacha she'eino nasis be'oicheloi mashke. So any malacha that's not done with food, and it's not for the sake of preparing food, this is called malachas avoida. He gives examples: to put out a fire, or to build, or to dig. These are malachas that have nothing to do with food. Generally, these malachas are not about preparing food. So these are the malachas that the Torah asks on Yom Tov. Avol kol malacha hanasis ba'ichelei b'mashke. But any malacha that's done in food, so these malachas are called malachas oichel nefesh, that the Torah permits to do on Yom Tov, to prepare the food for Yom Tov. And it's a befedish apostle. It says, "Ach asher ye'ochel l'chol nefesh hu levado ye'yosel lochem." So all the malachas that are primarily done with food, or a main part of this malacha is done with food, those are called malachas oichel nefesh. So one of the common examples is cooking, the malacha of oife, bishul. So the main malacha of cooking and baking is with food, preparing food. So this is malachas oichel nefesh, which is mutter on Yom Tov. There are two malachas that are not so clearly designated for food, that are also called malachas oichel nefesh. Carrying is used for all kinds of items, but also very importantly for food. In order to have food, you have to carry it and bring it from place to place. So hoitzah is also called the malachas oichel nefesh. And the second one is havara, lighting a fire, having a fire. So fire is not primarily for food, but it's one of the main uses of fire. It's used to prepare food. You cannot prepare food, cooking or baking, without fire. You need the heat of the fire. That is what prepares the food, and therefore it's also considered malachas oichel nefesh. Then the Alter Rebbe adds the kiblu chachamim, and this is the shita of Bais Hillel in the Mishnah. Shekol melachos oichel nefesh. All these malachas that are considered malachas with food, mitoich shehitira haTorah la'asoison letzorech achilas Yom Tov. Since the Torah permits to do it for preparing food, putru legamri afilu shaloi letzorech achilas Yom Tov. So they're permitted completely, even not for food. Ubilvad sheyehei bohen ktsas tzorech Yom Tov. but it has to be a little bit a purpose, a need for Yom Tov. So, for example, you're allowed to carry food from place to place because that's Malachas Eichel Nefesh. But what about carrying a siddur from place to place to davening? That's not food. But because of the heter of mitoich, you're allowed to carry a siddur from place to place. You need to use it on Yom Tov. And this is l'tzoyrech Yom Tov, to use the siddur on Yom Tov. So that's mutter, that's also allowed. It has to be l'tzoyrech Yom Tov. But if you're going to do the malacha not for the sake of Yom Tov, if you're carrying a siddur on Yom Tov to a place which you're going to need to use it over there after Yom Tov, that you're not allowed to do on Yom Tov. It's not a tzorech Yom Tov. Then the Alter Rebbe adds, there's a condition. For what type of uses do we say that mitoich works, that you're allowed to do these melachas that are considered melachas eichel nefesh for anything that's for Yom Tov? There's a condition, there's a t'nai, and this is V'hu shetehei hanoas haguf zu shove lechol nefesh odom b'Yisrael. Only if the type of act that you're doing is something that everybody considers this a benefit that they need, that they usually benefit from. So this is called, it has to be a tzorech Yom Tov that's shove lechol nefesh.
For example,
To give an example, it's a big shaila in the poskim if one's allowed to smoke a cigarette on Yom Tov. Is smoking a cigarette, you're lighting a cigarette, that's havora, it's the malacha of havora, of transferring a fire. And it's a big shaila in the poskim if this is called shove lechol nefesh. Is this called a benefit that everybody feels that they benefit from this? And therefore you're allowed to light a cigarette from an existing fire on Yom Tov. And some poskim say you're not allowed to light a cigarette from an existing fire on Yom Tov. It's brought down that many were careful that on the first day of Yom Tov they did not light a cigarette. Second day of Yom Tov Sheni, a certain kules, certain things are more lenient on Yom Tov Sheni. Generally, Yom Tov Sheni is the same as Yom Tov Rishon, but there's certain things that are more lenient. So they would smoke on Yom Tov Sheni. This is just an example. But we'll soon see a more practical example that's practical for everyone. That goes into this condition of shovel chol nefesh. So now I'm going to, before we go further about the fire, about the malacha of havora, of fire. So although fire is a melacha that's considered melechas oichel nefesh, but nevertheless, you're not allowed to light a fire from scratch. You could only light a fire from an existing fire. And that's a halacha in Siman Tov Kuf Beis, Sif Aleph. It says, Ein moitziyin ha'esh, lo yimenu ha'etzim, v'lo yimenu ha'avonim, and all different types of ways. Osur lasis b'Yom Tov. You're not allowed to do this on Yom Tov. Why not? This is an isur d'Rabbanon. Mipnei shehu moilid dover chodosh, v'doimek tzas l'melocha, v'kiven shehoyo efsher lasis me'erev Yom Tov, osur lasis b'Yom Tov. So to light the fire from scratch, this is something you can do before Yom Tov. Make sure to light an existing fire, have an existing fire that you will be able to take fire from on Yom Tov. So because it's Moilid Davar Chodosh, it's like Me'ayin Liyesh, there was no fire here, and you created fire somehow. Able to set up in the Bria that you can create fire from stones, striking a match. So this is something that's doimek tzas l'malacha. Therefore, with the Rabbanon, you're not allowed to do this on Yom Tov. So havora is mutter, the malacha of havora is mutter l'tzoyrech Yom Tov, because it's considered lechas oichel nefesh. But the Chachamim limited this malacha, and they said you could only do it from an existing fire. To light a fire from scratch, that's considered Osur Midrabanan, it's Isur Drabanan on Yom Tov. And just to mention that the turning on electricity on Yom Tov is also the same Isur. Turning on electricity is a toilda of Havara. It's considered a type of fire, electricity. And if you turn on electricity from scratch, this is Osur Midrabanan, because that's like Moitzi and Eish. It's like bringing out a new fire that was not existing. So if you have a way that electricity is already going, but you're just gonna strengthen the power of the electricity without starting new currents of electric, whatever it is, that might be permitted on Yom Tov. It's very limited cases to this where you have electricity that's already going and you're doing something to add. Let's take a regular crock pot that has a knob that you could from number 1 to number 8. So if the crock pot is on number 4, you want to turn it up to number 5. What happens here? Turning up electricity from number 4 to number 5. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know exactly what happens, but my understanding is that there's new electricity that's generated. It's not the same electricity that was here before that's getting stronger. It's a new koyach of electricity that's being generated. Generally, this is what it's accepted, that generally, all these kind of things, electricity, even if it's already on, to make it higher, stronger, generally is not allowed unless you hear from an experienced person who tells you that in this case, it's okay. I heard that there are certain type of lamps that have a bulb that you can make it higher, stronger, dimmer. That might be, some person I think hold that that's in the case of electricity where you're just adding in the strength of this light itself. But that even that is not everybody agrees about that. So again, the reason why you're not allowed to turn on electricity on Yom Tov, generally any electric item where you're not allowed to turn it on, is because of this issue that Rabbanon of Moitzi and Eish. You're not allowed to be Moy with Eish to bring out a new fire or new electricity that wasn't existing from before. That's about turning on electricity. When it comes to turning off electricity on Yom Tov, here the issue is
this service is provided by freeconferencecall.com.
Put out a fire on Yom Tov. That's an issue of mechabe, putting out a fire. Mechabe is not considered a malakas eichel nefesh. Mechabe generally is not needed to prepare food. It's not considered a malakas eichel nefesh. Therefore, it's also to put out a fire on Yom Tov, even if it's like Soyrich Yom Tov. Let's say you have a candle on in your room and you want to sleep, and it's disturbing you. So Soyrich Yom Tov, that should be dark in your room, but you're not allowed to put out the fire on Yom Tov. Because kibui is not considered a malakas eichel nefesh. It's not permitted to do, even if it's Soyrich Yom Tov. So to turn off any electricity, that is kibui. That's the malach of kibui. That turning off electricity on Yom Tov is a malacha d'oraisa. Turning on electricity is an isur d'rabbanan. Turning on electricity is just the isur of moitzi and eish. It's havora. Havora is mutter on Yom Tov, but you're not allowed to be moitzi eish from new. Turning off electricity is mechabe, and that's isur d'oraisa. It may be differences between isur d'oraisa and isur d'rabbanan. For example, when it comes to a shvus, the shvus, if it's the Rabbanon on a Rabbanon, that would be, for example, if you tell a goy to turn on the electricity, so Amir La'akum is a shvus, Amir La'akum is a Rabbanon. Just like on Shabbos, you're not allowed to tell a goy to do something that you are not allowed to do. This applies to Yom Tov also. Amir La'akum is a shvus. You're not allowed to tell a goy to do something that you are not allowed to do. However, if you're going to tell the goy to do an Issur Rabbanon, shvus, the shvus, so the din is b'mokim mitzvah, it's mutter, or b'mokim tzoyrech godel, it's mutter. So there are ways that a shvus to shvus has certain cases is mutter. So this will be the difference. Turning on electricity is issur d'rabbanan. So if you tell a guy to do it, it will be a shvus to shvus. But turning off electricity is issur d'oraisa. So telling a guy to do it will be just one shvus, which is more strict. Now we'll go to Siman Tov Kuf Yud Aleph. And this simon speaks about rechitza Yom Tov, taking a shower on Yom Tov, taking a bath on Yom Tov. So here in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe brings two shittas in halacha, two shittas from the Gdolei HaRishonim, and the second shitta says that to cook water, to heat up water on Yom Tov, in order to wash your whole body, is not allowed, is osur min haTorah. Why? Lefi sherechitzas kol haguf einot tzoyrech kol nefesh. It's not called shavel kol nefesh. This need, this necessity to wash your whole body with hot water is not a tzoyrech for every person each and every day. That's the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. We have to realize that in those times, people didn't have showers in their own homes. They went to a bathhouse, and people didn't go every single day to the bathhouse. So it was not considered a shovel, tzoyrech kol nefesh, something that everybody is accustomed to and needs to rinse their whole body with hot water every single day. So this is the halacha, the second opinion in Shulchan Aruch, that it's also to warm up, to heat up water for this, to wash rechitzas kol haguf, to wash the whole body. Therefore, because if you were to warm up the water, to heat up the water, this would be an isur shel Torah. Therefore, the chachamim aser yesh leser lirchitz kol gufay b'yom tov, va'afilu b'chamen shehu chamu me'erev yom tov, gzeira shema yochem.
All participants are on hold.
Gzeira Shema Yochem Mayim B'Shvil Rechitzas Kol Gufei V'Yasa Isur Min HaTorah. So according to the second opinion, it's an Isur to wash your whole body with hot water on Yom Tov because of a Gzeira that you might come to heat up water to do so, and that's an Isur Torah. Then the Alter Rebbe says, "Met vorim amurim lirchotz kol gufoi bebasachas," to wash your whole body at the same time. Avol lirchotz kol gufoi eiver bechamim shehu chamu me'erev yom tov muter. But if you wash just one part at a time, even if you end up washing the whole body, or you do just one part at a time, if this water was heated up from erev yom tov, then it's mutter to wash with this water on Yom Tov if you do each part of the body at a time. And then the Alter Rebbe says that Nohagu b'medinos elu lahachmir kisvoro ha'acharoina ve'ein l'shanos haminik. So there's two shittas in Shulchan Aruch. What I read for you is a second shitta, and the Alter Rebbe says that the minig was accepted, that we're strict like this second opinion. So what comes out is like this, that if you have chamen shehu chmume erev yom tov, you have water that was heated up erev yom tov, then it's permitted to wash what part by a time, each part by a time, not the whole body at once, but part by part. If it's water that was heated up on yom tov, then you could only do ponav yoda v'raglov. You could only wash ponav yoda v'raglov, your face, hands, and feet. No more than that. Now, according to this, if you turn on a shower on Yom Tov, the hot water comes from the boiler. So a nice amount of water was heated up before Yom Tov in the boiler. Depends how much was used on Yom Tov. So in many cases, you could say that the water that comes is chamen shehu chmume erev Yom Tov. What happens if you think that you already used up all the water from the boiler? Every time you turn on the hot water on Yom Tov, it takes some water that was already hot, and more cold water comes into the boiler, and automatically it gets heated up on Yom Tov. So this is a question in the Poskim. This hot water that's heated up automatically, you didn't intend to do it. You didn't do an act directly to heat up water. It just happens automatically. When you open the hot water, then the boiler empties out a little bit, and some more cold water comes in from the system into the boiler and gets heated up. So it's a shaila in the Poskim of this is called Chametz Shehuchmu Me'erev Yom Tov because it's automatic. It's not considered Huchmu B'Yom Tov that you heated it up. Or do we say no? Sof Kol Sof. It was heated up on Yom Tov, and this is treated like Chametz Shehuchmu B'Yom Tov. So the shaila in the Poskim about this. But again, so according to the halacha here, if it's Chametz Shehuchmu Me'erev Yom Tov, if you know that it's from before Yom Tov, you could wash part by part, even the whole body. But if it's Chametz Shehuchmu B'Yom Tov, it was heated up on Yom Tov, then you can only wash Ponav Yodav V'Raglo. What? If it's a building and there's goyim, it's also then probably the original water that's from Erev Yom Tov is gone already, and it's new water, but the goyim did it, so for them it might be, if the goyim did it, it might be different. It's not clear. There's different opinions about this. This is the mitzvah, the halacha, if it's permitted or not. The difference, obviously, everybody understands. The difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov is, on Shabbos, generally, you're not allowed to turn on the hot water b'chlal because you're causing that more cold water is going to come into the boiler and get cooked. That's generally Yom Tov. So the truth is, getting to this, one asks the question, are you allowed to turn on the hot water on Yom Tov? So this is also really not something that everybody agrees that it's okay to turn on the hot water on Yom Tov. Because of this question, when you turn on the hot water on Yom Tov, so additional water is coming into the boiler and it's getting cooked, and could be that this additional water that's coming into the boiler is not for the sake of Yom Tov. Maybe it's first going to be used after Yom Tov. And it's also possible that when you are turning on the hot water, this is going to cause that since more cold water is coming into the boiler is going to turn on again. Maybe the boiler was off, and when you're opening the water, you're causing the boiler to turn on again. And that might be like turning on electricity. Depends how the boiler works. It might be like getting a new fire to turn on again, like a new fire to turn on again. So there's a question about this. Many Rabbonim and Poskim hold at it. You're allowed to turn on the hot water on Yom Tov. We're not going to get into the discussions in the Pilpul for the reasons that, and the reasons are not. I'm just bringing out why it's not a clear thing that everybody agrees. And as far as to my knowledge is that there are many people who do turn on the hot water on Yom Tov, and there are people who don't turn on the hot water on Yom Tov. So if you don't turn on the hot water on Yom Tov, then there's no question that you're not going to turn on the hot shower on Yom Tov. You don't turn on hot water on Yom Tov at all. But if you do turn on hot water on Yom Tov, then the question is, could you turn on the shower on Yom Tov to wash your body? So what we're learning here is that to wash the whole body at once is definitely not allowed. To wash the whole body part by part at a time, if it's Chametz Shehuchmu Me'erev Yom Tov, then it's allowed. But if it's Chametz Shehuchmu B'Yom Tov, then it's only mutter Ponav Yodav V'Raglo. This is mitzad din. However, in Hilchas Shabbos, one will ask a question, but are you allowed to take a cold shower on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Completely cold, a cold shower. Are you allowed to take a cold shower on Shabbos and Yom Tov? So in Hilchas Shabbos, in Siman Shin Chav Vav, the Alter Rebbe mentions in Sif Vav that there are different things that you have to be cautious of and careful of if you wash your whole body with water on Shabbos and Yom Tov, even if it's cold water. And one of them is that you have to be careful not to squeeze your hair. If you're going to wash your hair, you might squeeze your hair, and that's also midrabanon. And therefore, if you do wash your hair on Shabbos, you have to be careful not to squeeze it, not to squeeze the water out. And then he says, since not everybody knows to be careful, Lochein nispashet haminik b'medinos elu sheloi lirchoitz klal b'Shabbos afilu b'tzoinen af al pi shein isur b'dover min hadin. So the general minig is not to take even a cold shower on Shabbos, and this applies to Yom Tov also, as the Morgan Avraham mentions and other places you mentioned. The general minig is not even to take a cold shower on Yom Tov. So we have to differentiate here between min hadin and mitzad minig shenis pashit. So min hadin, we learn in Hilchos Yom Tov what's permitted and what's not. The different details that I mentioned before, as mentioned in Siman Tov Kuf Yud Aleph. So that's min hadin, because the minig is to be strict, like the second opinion. That's considered min hadin. But here, there's another point that nispashet haminig afal pi she'ein isur b'dover min hadin, not to wash at all, not to take a shower at all. You can wash pon of yoda v'raglav. You're allowed to wash on Shabbos. You can wash your hands, feet, and face. But to wash the whole body, the minig generally is not to do so on Shabbos. But this is only a minig shenispashet, but not a isur b'dover min hadin. Therefore, the poskim say that if somebody is a mitztair, somebody is in the level of mitztair, is very uncomfortable, and washing himself with water will help him feel better, then that can be an exception. That although nispashet haminik shalei lirchitz klal b'Shabbos, but if someone is a mitztair, very uncomfortable, and the water will help him, then he's allowed to take a cold shower on Shabbos. And then obviously you should be careful not to squeeze the hair, be careful. So this applies to a mitztair. Now this has to be dealt with everybody according to their level. It depends, it could be that in places that's very hot and humid and someone really is schwitzing away, it could be considered that he's very uncomfortable and mitztair, and maybe it would be permitted to take a cold shower on Yom Tov and even on Shabbos.
With soap?
Soap, you could use diluted liquid soap. Regular soap is a problem, but if it's diluted liquid soap, generally, the poskim explain that it should be liquid to the extent that if you pour some on the palm of your hand, it won't pile up. It will just spread out. If it's that level of liquid, then you could use liquid soap on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Now, I'll add that some poskim add to this. Not everybody agrees. Some poskim add to this that on Yom Tov, if you do turn on the hot water, it would be permitted to turn on a little bit hot water, that the cold water shouldn't be freezing. It should be tolerable. So it's not allowed to get warm, that you feel that it's warm, but it should not be freezing. You should be able to stand in the cold water. Some poskim hold that this is still called tzoinen. So on Shabbos, you're not allowed to turn on the hot water, but on Yom Tov, if you do turn on hot water, according to some poskim, you can do this. You can turn on a little bit of hot water together with the cold water, that it shouldn't be freezing, to take away the real coldness from the water. You should be able to tolerate it, but not to the extent that you should feel that it's warm water. This would some poskim will permit.
How to wash a baby?
Well, the Alter Rebbe speaks about this also, and he says that today, according to this opinion, the baby won't be an exception, since it's Gzeira Shema Yochim B'Yom Tov B'Shviloi. So generally, it won't be permitted, but you could wash one of the other veraglov. And one second. Also, if the baby needs it, if it's Chamish Huchmu Me'erev Yom Tov, then you can do it part at a time if the baby needs it. So the point is this, as I mentioned earlier, if it's Chamish Huchmu Me'erev Yom Tov, Min Hadin on Yom Tov, you could wash with hot water, part by part at a time. But again, this would only be a heter for a mitztair. If someone's not a mitztair, then the minig that shenis pashet is shaloi lirchitz klal. But if someone's a mitztair or a baby that needs it, then it would be permitted. If it's Cham and Shulch Mu'erev Yontif, wash the whole goof, but only part at a time. And if it's Cham and Shulch Mu'erev Yontif, then it would be Pon of Yoda Veraglo. Another example of something which is not shovel chol nefesh, that may be an issue on Yontif. So we just finished learning that taking a regular shower on Yontif is the reason why it's osir is because rechitzas kol haguf b'chol yom is not shovel chol nefesh. That's why it's osir to heat up water for this, and therefore Chachamim said you're not allowed to take a regular shower and hot water on Yontif because he's gzeira shema yochim mayim b'shvila. You might come to heat up water for this. So I'll give another example of a halach on Yontif that is this same concept of shovel chol nefesh, and that would be refuah, to take a refuah, take a medicine on Yom Tov. There's an issur to take a medicine on Shabbos. What's the issur to take a medicine on Shabbos? Gzeira shema yishchik samamonim. In order to make a medicine, you have to grind the plants and make them to a powder, make the medicines out of it. And because people very much want to take the medicine, so they might forget that it's Shabbos, and they run out, they might grind plants and make more medicine. That's the reason why Chachamim said you're not allowed to take a medicine on Shabbos. Just to clarify, this applies if the person is not affected by the illness to the extent that it affects his whole body, that he can't function normally. If a person is not feeling well on Shabbos to the extent that the whole body is affected, they can't function normally, then the Chachamim permitted this Isser, the Rabbanon, of taking medicine, and then they can take medicine. There are also other cases where you can take medicine. I'm not going to teach all the halachas of the Siman Shin Chav Ches about Refuah b'Shabbos now, but just to mention the general point. Now, when it comes to Yom Tov, since the whole Gzeira is Shema Yishchek Samamonim, well, Tchina, grinding food, is Oichel Nefesh, is Malachas Oichel Nefesh. Now, the Alter Rebbe gives a whole introduction in the beginning of Hilchas Yom Tov that many of the malachas that are Malachas Oichel Nefesh, like Tchina, like grinding food, the Chachamim also limited. The Chachamim decided that even the malachas that the Torah permits to do on Yom Tov, Malachas Oichel Nefesh, but they gave two general rules. You could only do it on Yom Tov if you were not able to do it before Yom Tov. But if you're able to do it before Yom Tov, you can't do it on Yom Tov. And the Alter Rebbe gives an example of cooking dried fruits. Generally, if you cook food a day earlier, it's not going to be as good as if you cook it the same day. Food is better if it's fresher. So therefore, you're allowed to bake and cook on Yom Tov, because it's something which you couldn't have done before Yom Tov, because it wouldn't be as fresh and as good. But there are certain foods that are perfectly okay and maybe even better if you cook them in advance. And the Alter Rebbe gives an example. If you cook dried fruits, they are better if you cook them in advance than if you cook them the same day. Therefore, you're not allowed to cook this on Yom Tov. This is an example of something where Chachamim limited the things that you are allowed to do on Yom Tov if you are able to do it before Yom Tov. So when it comes to grinding, there's limits. You can't generally grind things. You could have done it before Yom Tov. There's halachas, detailed halachas about this. But anyway, it's not an issur min ha-Torah. It's not an issur min ha-Torah. When it comes to grinding the plants for the refuah, so let's say he ran out on Yom Tov and needs more. So the question is would this be mutter min ha-Torah? Maybe osur midrabanan, but mutter min ha-Torah. So the level of refuah on Yom Tov, the issur d'Rabbanon to take a refuah is because Shema Yovel Shchikas Samamonim. On Shabbos that would be issur d'Oraisa. But on Yom Tov, well, it's Shchikas Samamonim, but it's Malachas Oichel Nefesh. The teretz is, but a refuah is not shovel chol nefesh. It's the same point. A refuah is not a food. Food is shovel chol nefesh, but a medicine is not shovel chol nefesh. Only certain people in certain situations need medicine. Therefore, it's a question if the Chachamim also put the Isser of taking medicine on Yom Tov, Gzeira Shema Yishchak Samamonim, and this doesn't say clearly in Shulchan Aruch. The later poskim deal with this and speak about it. It doesn't say clearly in Shulchan Aruch whether you're allowed to take medicine. The general issue of taking medicine, all you're doing is eating something, swallowing something. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to do it unless it's certain situations. On Yom Tov, what's the din? So many poskim say that on first day of Yom Tov, not allowed to take medicine, just like Shabbos. Some poskim permit it, say that medicine is different. They didn't ask her on Yom Tov. But many poskim hold that you're not allowed to take medicine on the first day of Yom Tov. On the second day of Yom Tov, on Yom Tov Sheni, the minig that's nispashet for Yisrael is that it's permitted to take medicine on Yom Tov Sheni. When it comes to taking medicine on Yom Tov Sheni, this isser of swallowing a medicine, which is based on the Gzeira Shema Yishchoik Samemonim, Yom Tov Rishon, many poskim aser say you're not allowed to do it. On Yom Tov Sheni, it's mutter. That doesn't change. Because that malacha is not a malacha seichel nefesh. That malacha doesn't change. That's also Yom Tov, just like Shabbos. Now let's speak about using the stove and the oven on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, if you have a stovetop that works with a pilot, that when you turn on the gas, it lights up, it lights because of the pilot, then it's considered like lighting a fire from an existing fire. So these types of ovens that have a pilot light, you're allowed to turn on the gas range, the gas on Yom Tov. If there's no electricity involved, it's just the fire goes on and it connects with the pilot light and that gets it to go on. That's called lighting from an existing fire, an existing flame, so you can turn on a fire on Yom Tov. But if it's the type that doesn't have a pilot, like many new editions of the ovens, of the stove tops, and it's electricity that gets the gas to turn on, so then you're not allowed to turn it on Yom Tov, because that's called moitziyesh. You're starting a new fire. So if there's a way to turn it on quickly and skip the electricity from acting up, and then you can light this gas from a candle that's burning, an existing fire, if there's a way to do that, then it will be permitted on Yom Tov to light the fire in that way. But generally, if you have the types of stovetops that they open up with electricity, you try to open it from before Yom Tov. It should be open before Yom Tov, at least on a low flame. Once it's on already, on Yom Tov, for the purpose of cooking, you could definitely make the flame higher if you need it higher to cook. That's havora. Havora l'tzorich eichel nefesh is mutter. Havora is mutter on Yom Tov, so you could make the flame higher, no question about it. The same as with the oven. If the oven is on low and you want to turn on the oven, you want to turn higher the fire of the oven, you can turn it higher. It's just adding, the fire is getting bigger. Then it's fine. You do have to be careful that if there's an electric light that goes on, every oven, the fire goes on and off with a thermostat. And some of them have an indicator, an electric light. So if the oven is on low and you want to turn it up, it could be that the oven, the thermostat was off. When you're going to turn it up, it's going to cause the oven to go on again, and it's going to turn on the electric light. So that can be an issue. If it turns on an electric light, that can be an issue. So if the oven is on currently and the electric light is on, you turn it higher, it's not going to cause the electric light to go on. It's on already, then it's fine. So you have to be careful. If there's any electricity involved or electric lights involved, that what you're doing shouldn't cause for the electricity to go on or off. Just that the fire goes higher, that's fine. To make the fire lower on Yom Tov, so it's mentioned in Shulchan Aruch that if you have a food cooking on a fire and the fire is high and there's a chashash, a concern that the food is going to burn, and the only way to prevent it from burning is by making the fire lower, then it's permitted to make the fire lower. because the malacha of mechabe, if it's if it's a need for the food, then it's permitted. Generally, it's not permitted, but if it's clearly a need for the food, then it's permitted. But the question is, what if you have the option to put the food on a different flame that's a lower flame? What if you can get another flame, a lower flame, without having to lower this flame that's high? So here's where the question comes in, and according to many poskim, if you have the ability to get another flame on lower, and you don't have to turn off the high flame, then that's better. That's preferable. Do that. Don't turn this flame lower. That's mechabe. We look to limit doing mechabe if you don't have to. Havora is mutter l'tzorech eichel nefesh. Mechabe is only if there's no other choice. So if you could have another flame, low flame, then do that. But if it's impossible, if all you have is one, then you can make it lower. Some poskim say it's okay. You can make it lower. You don't have to open another flame. It's okay. You can make it lower. So those who do that, they have what to rely on. But the best thing is not to lower a flame if you have the ability to get another flame that's lower to put the food on that it shouldn't burn.
At what point does it mean that you have a smaller flame?
To open another flame, yeah.
Open
another flame, yeah. Make another flame. What does it cost you? Yeah, make another flame, right? You have 4 flames on the regular gas range. This one is too high. The food's going to burn. So make another one, a smaller one.
Even if it doesn't exist.
Right. Even if it doesn't exist yet, do that.
You can move the pot.
Yeah, there's practical aids. You can move the pot. You could put a hefsek between the pot and the fire. Make it less hot. Yeah, you can put a small pan upside down under it. There's aids that you can do that. It shouldn't burn. Correct. Then we have the question about the samava, the hot water urn. The hot water urn on Shabbos, you're not allowed to add any hot water. That's cooking. But on Yom Tov, there should be ways where you can add hot water into the hot water urn. If you have a 2-day Yom Tov or a 3-day, you can have Shabbos now and then 2 days Yom Tov. You put up a samava with hot water before Shabbos, and by the time you're in the middle of the first day of Yom Tov, it's very low, and you want to refill. You want to put in more water to cook. So what you have to be careful of is that by adding the cold water into the hot water urn, you're not going to cause that the electricity will start up again. Here also, the electricity, it's with a thermostat. It goes on and off. The heating element that keeps the water hot goes on and off. So if currently it's off, and when you put in cold water, it could cause that it should turn on again. So you're causing that electricity should turn on again. That would be the issue. So you could only add cold water when it's on. When you notice that the heating element is on, and therefore by putting in the cold water, you're not going to cause that the electricity should turn on. It's on already. It's heating right now. Then you can put in more cold water to heat it up on Yom Tov. You also have to be careful from an electric light. If there's an electric light that's going to turn on or off by you putting in more cold water, that's not allowed. So be careful to make sure that no electric lights will go on or off, and make sure that by putting in the cold water, you're not going to cause the electricity to start up again. Then you could add cold water to cook on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you could do this.
No difference between the first day and second day?
No difference the first day and second day. This is cooking. Cooking is mutter on Yom Tov. Cooking is mutter on Yom Tov generally, except for certain exceptional things which are fresher and better if you cook them in advance. But hot water, you need now hot water. So you're allowed to cook hot water on Yom Tov. You're allowed to take a tea kettle and fill it up with water and put it on top of a flame on Yom Tov to cook. Interesting is brought about Shaila. What if you have the types of tea kettle that make a noise when the water is ready? It makes a whistle noise, right? A whistling noise. So it's a question: is this proper for the Yom Tov atmosphere to have a tea kettle that makes a whistling noise when it's ready? It's better to prevent this. It's better to prevent this. Now let's speak about changing the status of a timer on the air conditioner on Yom Tov. You have an air conditioner that's running and with a timer, a Shabbos clock, that some of the time of the day it goes on and some of the time of the day it goes off. So if the weather changes and gets hotter or colder and you want it to go higher, it should be on longer or shorter.
It's the same for a clock now, or
Anything, yeah, any type of electricity, electric item that's attached to a Shabbos clock. So let's have in mind again, when the electricity turns on, that's Isur Rabbanon of Moiled Eish. If you're turning off the electricity, it's Isur Menatayra of Kiboy of Mechabe, putting out the fire. Both of them are not allowed. So let's talk about the way that's for sure permissible. What could you do? So what's definitely allowed is, this is allowed on Shabbos also, while the air conditioner, while the air conditioner is going, you can do something on the Shabbos clock to cause that it should go off later than it was going to go off. That means the activity that was going to happen on its own, either to go on or off, you could delay that from happening. But you can't cause that it should happen earlier. If you're doing something that causes that it should happen earlier, that's called you're being goydim, you're causing. Grama is osur on Shabbos. And Yom Tov also, except for the case of Havara, it might be more kal, but I'm not going to get into that now. On Yom Tov, Havara is only midrabanan. So if it's a gram Havara, some place can say it's more kal. But let's try to avoid that. Not everybody agrees. So again, if the air conditioner was going to go off at 4 o'clock, if you want to do something that's going to cause that it should go off at 5 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock, you could do that. But if you want to make it to go off at 3 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock, you cannot do that, because then you're being goyim that it should happen when it wouldn't have happened without your activity. If it was going to, same thing was turning on, right? If you're going to do something that it should turn on later, that you could do, while it's off, you can do something to cause that it should turn on later, because then it's considered that you didn't cause anything. It was going to go anyway. You just made that should be delayed. But you're not allowed to do something that can make that it should come earlier, that it should turn on earlier, because that's grama. However, this applies to Shabbos also. However, caution is necessary. One second.
It's only mechanical timer. Yeah. Only mechanical.
Yeah. Mechanical timer. I'm talking about mechanical timer now that has pieces, and you take out the pieces and put in pieces. So let me clarify this. Caution. Let me clarify. You could only do it in a way that in the process of what you're doing, you're not causing to stop the whole action of the timer. For example, if there's only one little piece over there by 4 o'clock, you're going to take off this piece. While it's off, now it's not going to go off at all, the air conditioner. You take it off, it's not going to turn off at all. When you put it back by 5 o'clock, now you're causing that it should turn off at 5 o'clock. You understand what I'm saying? If there's only one piece there, that's by 4 o'clock, and because it's there, it's going to turn off at 4 o'clock. If you're going to take it off and put it by 5 o'clock, while you took it off, now it stopped the act of the Shabbos clock. It's not going to go off at all because nothing there. When you put it back by 5 o'clock, you're causing that it to go off. So that's not allowed. What you have to have is more than one piece. Leave the piece of 4 o'clock by 4 o'clock. Take another piece and put it by 5 o'clock. Then you can take off the piece of 4 o'clock.
this is okay on Shabbos.
Okay, this is okay on Shabbos also.
And the air conditioner
So
is off.
when the air conditioner is on, there's a piece by 4 o'clock that's going to make it go off at 4. You take another piece and put it by 5 o'clock. That's going to make it go off at 5. Then take out the piece by 4. So now it's not going to go off until 5 o'clock. All you did was delay the action that was going to happen. You didn't cause something to happen that wasn't going to happen. It was going to happen anyway at 4 o'clock. You just delayed it to 5 o'clock. That would be permitted. I hope that this is clear. I hope this is understood.
Timer with the dial, you have to take it out in order to change the time. Are you allowed?
So that, but what happens when you take it out? What happens when you take it out? If you leave it out, what happens?
It will go on, it continue.
It will continue forever.
Yeah.
Then you're not allowed to do that. You can't put it back. No. If you take it off and the
And
activity
you're allowed
stops,
to take it off, and you're allowed to take it off.
yeah, you're allowed to take it off to cause that whatever was going to happen shouldn't happen. Yeah, you could prevent something from happening. That's what you're allowed to do. Yeah, sure. In other words, when the air conditioner is off, for example, and you don't want it to go on again at all, you could, if it's mechanical pieces, you could just turn it off. You turn it off. While it's off, you could turn it off that it shouldn't go on again. To prevent something from happening is okay. Take out the plug. The plug is muktzah, so you can do it kilach hayad. If it's off, while it's off, you can take out the plug, kilach hayad, back of your hand. Plug is muktzah. The pieces, what? Shabbos also. While it's off, there's no electricity coming through. Taking out the plug will just prevent anything from happening. That you can do, but it's muktzah. The plug is muktzah. The pieces are not. Pieces, many places hold not muktzah because you can deal with it on Yom Tov and Shabbos. You want to use it. You want to do it in a permissible way.
But even when the air conditioner is off, the timer is moving. It means electricity is coming through.
Oh, you have a point. You have a point. If it's the same plug, no, but you just pull out the plug from the timer, not the timer from the wall.
Oh.
Pull out the plug from the timer. Yes, sure. Pull out the plug from the timer. Don't pull out the timer from the wall because the timer is electric. That's right.
Air conditioner into the wall. You can't.
Yeah, you could. So. But where's the timer? Okay, it depends where the timer is. I'm talking about take it out from the timer.
You gotta change the temperature all the time.
Oh, so by changing the temperature is the same thing. That if it's mechanical, you could do something that the next thing that was going to happen is going to be delayed. So if it's a lower temperature, while it's on, you could turn the temperature to a higher number. So it's going to turn off later. Whatever was going to happen next could be delayed. You could do something to make it be delayed. Okay, figure it out. If you want to make the temperature of an air conditioner higher and lower, if it's mechanical, and what you're doing is going to delay the next activity was going to happen, that's allowed. If you're not sure about this, clarify it. Okay, just mentioning the point.
Working, you can make it higher, but it's not working, you can make it lower.
Right. That's right. Digital, you can't. If it's digital, you can't do anything because you're doing electricity. So not on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov. You can't turn on electricity or lower electricity. Okay, fine. Let me just point out again and clarify about, I mentioned earlier about taking medicine on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Obviously, if someone was given by a doctor in order to take a medicine, don't stop without checking by the doctor. Okay. Yom Tov Shavuos is coming. Just say a little bit of something about Shavuos. First of all, many people ask about the haircuts this year. It says in Hayom Yom that we don't take haircuts before Erev Chag HaShavuos. And this year, Erev Chag HaShavuos is Shabbos. But the minig is to take a haircut on Friday. You could take a haircut on Friday for Kovet Shavuos.
Thursday night?
You can start Thursday night already. Thursday night is considered Friday. From Thursday night after Tzeisak Echovim, from Thursday night after Tzeisak Echovim, that's considered Friday. This year, you can take haircuts from Thursday night after Tzeisak Echovim. Now, on Shavuos, the Alter Rebbe mentions in Shulchan Aruch many have the custom to be up a whole night to learn Torah. So in Shulchan Aruch it says that many have the custom. Some ask, so does this mean that I should make sure to stay up all night? What if I'm not up to it? And it's difficult for me. Many have the custom, all right? Doesn't mean I have to. Doesn't mean it's very important for me. So, we have Sefer HaMenhagim in Hogei Chabad. In Sefer HaMenhagim by Chag HaShavuos it says, "V'lebavich hoyu neurim b'leil Shavuos." If you are Lubavitch, you're up on the night of Shavuos. Lubavitch hoyu neurim b'leil Shavuos. No, this applies to men. It applies to men. It doesn't apply to women. Another thing it says in the Ha'ara in Sefer HaMenhagim that the Rebbe Rashab repeated something that the Middle Rebbe said about staying up the night of Shavuos, that he promises that whoever will be up on the night of Shavuos will be Zoiche for Keser Torah. And then the Rebbe Rashab stood up and said, Hert alle Yidden, Shavuos dike Nacht darf men oif sein. So listen in, all Yidden, the night of Shavuos you are supposed to be up. This is what the Rebbe Rashab stood up and said. So this is a message for all the Yidden. Shavuos dike Nacht darf men oif sein. Now the brachas, if you're up a whole night, the brachas hashachar in the morning, all the brachas you could say, all the brachas Al Rebbe and Siddur says you can say all the brachas except for Asher Yotzar, unless you use the bathroom, and Al Natilas Yadoyim in the Siddur says you don't say if you're up a whole night. Siddur state that you don't say Al Natilas Yadoyim if you're up a whole night. In Igris Kodesh of the Rebbe, it's mentioned Hayra Bachashoi. You do say it. Okay, so you could look it up. It's in Igris Kodesh. It's also brought in Shevach HaMoyadim. This is called Hayra Bachashoi. Okay, another point about Shavuos, the Alter Rebbe. No. You go to sleep after Halei Shachar, you don't have to say Krishma Shalami. The Alter Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch, Noihagin b'chol ha-mekoymois le'choil ma'chol echolov b'yoyim aleph shel Shavuos. There's an official minig that everybody keeps to eat milchiks on the first day of Shavuos. So this is the official minig to eat milchiks on the first day of Shavuos. Doesn't apply to the second day, doesn't apply to the nights. The official minig is b'yoyim aleph shel Shavuos. Then the Alter Rebbe says, "Ulefi shemitzvah lechol basar b'chol Yom Tov." So it doesn't mean that the milchiks takes the place of the Yom Tov meal. It means you have kiddush with milchiks, mezainis and milchiks, and later you eat a meal with fleishiks. Interessant. The Ramah says that the reason for eating milchiks is zeicha for the shtei halechem. Since on Shavuos in the Bais Medrash to bring shtei halechem. So therefore, on the first day of Shavuos, you eat two meals. First, you have a milchik meal, then you have a fleishik meal. Zeicha for the shtei halechem. So first, you have milchiks with mezainis. Mezainis is also a type of lechem. The pas above kisnin. Then you wait an hour. Minich Chabaz to wait an hour for eating the fleishiks. Afterwards, you eat a meal, a sudas Yom Tov with fleishiks. Now, some people do have a minig to eat at night of Shavuos a milchige meal and not fleishiks. There is such a minig. It's not a Lubavitcher minig. We don't have the minig. It's brought in Sforah that some people have such a minig. So if somebody has this minig, all right. But if you don't have such a minig, the proper thing is at the nights of Shavuos you have a fleishige meal, and only on the first day of Shavuos after Kiddush you eat milchiks, and an hour later you have a sudas Yom Tov of meat. If you want to have a milchige Kiddush on the second day as well, gezunter hey. You can do it again, but that's not the official minig.
Have to Kiddush or could be breakfast in the morning.
Essen, fahren, davening, heißt nicht essen. Davening, dicke essen. It's not. You need a zeicha for the shtei halechem. The proper way is it should be after Kiddush, after davening with Kiddush. If you have no choice, then
Sometimes the Zen is fine down is after Kiddush.
After Kiddush and Mezoinas,
yes.
between eating of milky stuff and meat, past 1 hour, you can immediately wash for salad, fish, etc. Just make sure that it's 1 hour between milky and
It's better to wait a half an hour and then wash. Yeah. Okay. Good. Hatzlacha Rabba, Kabbalah Satayra, V'simcha B'pnimi.
Thank you very much.
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.
Yeah. We can pick up
I'm gonna send it.
what?
I'm gonna on WhatsApp on the yeah.